Hi everyone, welcome to another tutorial video. In this video I'm just going to be painting Shrike's head, and I'm going to be painting it for one of my friends who collects the Necropolis Hawks Space Marine chapter. There's one on screen right now if you've never seen one before. I created this chapter for a White Dwarf article a few years ago, and one of my friends has a full army, so I thought as a gift I'd paint Shrike's head because I know that that person's going to be painting Shrike soon, but they wanted me to paint the head for them. So this is a little gift for them. You'll also notice this video is a little bit different because I'm going to be doing a voiceover and I had to re-edit another video. So let me know what you think about this video, and we'll get started in just a second. So with the black undercoat all dry, first thing I did was I base coated the skin area with Night Questor flesh. I did a couple of coats of this. So obviously we added a little bit of water in there just to thin it down, let it dry, add another layer. Once that was dry, I thinned down some Doomball brown and I just washed that around the eye and the recessed areas of the skin. This is a nice warm brown, so it adds a nice little warmth to the skin. And once that was dry, I did the same thing with Rhinox hide, only focusing around the eye socket instead. So then the first highlight was Cadian Flesh Tone. So this was thinned down, say 50-50 with water, just highlighted over the top brow of the skin. Then once that was dry, I did a layer of Kislev flesh just over the top of that. It's a little bit lighter. After that, I did a highlight of Ushabti bone just above the brow, obviously leaving the previous colour showing so we're not destroying out other highlights. And then I did another highlight of Screaming Skull. It's a little bit further down the brow. These yellow colours are great for highlighting skin, so when you look at skin there is actually a little bit of yellow in there, so this gives it a very natural look. And then I use some pure white just on the brow line to define the brow. Obviously this is just a small amount, you don't need a lot. And then just using the white again, add a little bit of definition just around the brow line, just to give them a bit of expression. You can do this with white, it works quite well. So now we're on to a fun part. So we're just blacking out the eye socket so we can paint the eyes. This is always a hair-raising moment. So this is a thin black paint, just to add some definition around the eye. And now it's time to hold your breath, where you use thin down white paint just to paint the eyeball. So this is just a line. So notice it's just a small amount, just keeping it accurate. The more you practice this, the easier it's going to get. So you'll notice there I just needed to add a little bit more white there, just towards the center of the face, just to complete the whole eyeball. And then once that's done and you're happy with it, just thin down some Chaos Black again and then dot yourself a pupil. Make sure the pupil meets the top and the bottom of the eyeball, or else it doesn't look natural. And then I got myself a small amount of white just to add a little reflection dot in the eyeball just to show off. I made the pupil quite large, so I was able to do this. Next, I base coated the upper part of his face mask with Celestra Grey. So this was a couple of coats there just to get a nice solid base coat for the whites. We're going to make this white. Then I thinned down some rust grey and just painted that around the shadow areas. And that was followed by thinned down Thunderhawk blue, just around the shadow areas as well to shade the white. We're going for a clean white here, so it's going to work quite well with the rest of the colour scheme. It's a little bit more shading there where it was needed. And then it was a 50-50 mix of Celestra Grey and white just to start highlighting the face mask. After that, it was just pure white. Thinned down again with water, a few layers of that for a highlight. And using that pure white again, just adding definition around the shape of the mask there, following those lines, picking out those edges. To follow the Acropolis Hawk's colour scheme, I base coated the lower part of the mask in Thunderhawk blue. And then I gave it a highlight just towards the top of the area in rust grey. And then the lower part of the mask got another highlight of Fenrisian grey. Just leaving the previous highlight showing. And then to finish the mask off, I had a final highlight of blue horror just along the top edge. Next, the top pipes on his mask were painted with Avalan Sunset. I did a couple of coats of this to get a solid base coat for the yellow. Then I thinned down some Scrag Brown just to add a little bit of warmth in the shading on those yellow pipes. And once that was dry, I went over that with some Uriel yellow to punch some colour into the pipes. A couple of thin coats there just to add the colour. Then I went over that again with Flash Kits yellow. Then I added a touch of white in with that for a highlight on top of there. And with those top pipes done, I went on to paint the bottom pipes in corn red. And then layered over Mephiston red. And then added a highlight of Troll Slayer orange along the top of the pipe edge. And to finish the red pipes, I added a very small highlight of Uganath orange just at the top and near the front. Once that was done, I painted in some hazard stripes on the top pipes. See my tutorial on that if you want to know more about hazard stripes. And then I added a highlight along the top of Screaming Skull. And with that done, I decided to base coat all of the hair with black paint again. Then I started highlighting the hair with dark Reaper, just focusing around the top of the head where the light would hit to begin with. Next I used Thunderhawk Blue to do the same thing, leaving some of the previous highlights showing. So once again, just focusing around the top, painting it in where we want the highlights. Next I started picking out all of the hairlines that are sculpted in with Rust Grey. Just focusing again around the top. We want to give the appearance that the hair is shiny. And then I did the same thing again with Fenrisian Grey, but making that band of line of light just a little bit smaller and focused around the top of the head. I also picked out a few highlights along the top of the head as well, just to add some definition to the hair. And then I used Pure Blue Horror to continue that band of highlights again. And then once again picking out some lines along the top to add definition. And I picked out a couple of spots of white just at the front of the hair, just to add some definition. And once that was done, I coated the whole of the hair with Pterodon Turquoise mixed with Lamian Medium, just to glaze it and give it a bit of colour. And then I base coated all of the metal parts in Lead Belcher. All the metal parts were then washed with a mix of Norn Oil Gloss and Black Templar. The Black Templar adds a little bit of pigment in there, which is quite good. And then it was highlighted with Stormhost Silver just on the edges. And there we go, there's the head all finished. So the main thing to note, I guess, is just that the reflectiveness of the hair is very important, and you can use that on loads of different miniatures. See, a lot of the time when people paint hair, it can tend to be quite flat. So you'll notice in the picture there, it looks very reflective and it has a different finish to the rest of the model. Thinking about different surfaces and how they reflect light or whether they absorb light can add a lot of life to your miniatures. So try thinking about that a little bit more. I hope this was useful, and let me know what you think about the tutorial in the comments. Cheers guys, bye.